This time, I'm interviewing Jon Darbyshire, serial tech entrepreneur who moved on from big success in the corporate world to founding, running, and then selling his own tech company about 10 years ago. Now, for the last 3 years, he has been working on his new exciting project, and that is how we met. I've had the privilege of spending quite a bit of time one-on-one with Jon and learned a great deal through our conversations, and also realized that he is quite a fulfilled and a happy person in general. I'd love to learn more from him on this specific subject and invite you into our conversation about happiness at work and in life. Hi Jon, thank you for making the time for this call and letting me record this conversation to share with others.
And so let's dive into it right away, and let me start with this simple question. What helps you be that way? What makes you happy in your professional life?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, I guess it's quite a number of things. I think your personal life has to be in order, and you have to feel good about your personal life before you can feel good about your professional life. I think they're very intertwined together. So family and friends and just that connection is very important. But on the professional side, I guess I really enjoy what I'm doing. I have a passion for software and creating software that creates emotion when you use it, creates a reaction from the person. It's something that as you work every day, you make something better. So you feel like you're making progress towards some goal over time. And I only work with people that I enjoy working with. Meaning I spend a lot of time in the people that I hire or that I contract with to make sure that we're well aligned, similar personalities. We don't have to have exactly the same belief systems, but we have to have a lot of the same characteristics that relate to both of us. Things that are important to us, how we treat people, how we interact with people, those types of things. And that, I guess the combination of those things just helps me feel comfortable, with what I'm doing.
Personal life is kind of the foundation for everything, and that has to be well and right. And then when it comes to professional, start with loving what you do, obviously, and then being able to see the progress in what you do, and it's not only about what you do, but it's also about the who you do it with, the people around you. And all of those factors contribute significantly to the overall happiness level and kind of the process, enjoyment of the process in what you do, right?
Yeah, very much, yes. Yeah, I think that work in itself can be stressful at times, but it's much easier when you're working with people that are communicating well with each other and that are that have the same way that they communicate. So that I'm not a person that likes to yell. I don't like people to be yelling at me. I know in the tech industry that happens quite a bit. I've been in a lot of situations where I've seen it. I've seen employees or associates be demoralized by those types of conversations, and it's something that I just made a decision early in my career that's just not the way I want to act, and I don't want to be around people that act that way. And I think when you demonstrate that to the people that you work with, it lets them be more creative, more comfortable. It makes work more enjoyable for them, and it just makes everything a little better. And in kind of the first tech startup that I did, I started that with my wife and my mom, and we considered that to be a family company, and we treated the people that we hired like family, and we said that quite often, and people started referring to that as the Archer family over time, and that was both rewarding, but also it was just very, it created a very peaceful work environment.
That's very cool. Yes, I guess that creates this atmosphere of certain safety and peace that just overall contributes to bringing the best out of people and helping them thrive in that environment, I guess, based on how you describe your approach.
Yeah, absolutely.
How do you keep the balance and maintain it in the midst of the stresses and everything?
Yeah, maybe a couple things come to mind. The first one is, when you have a really good process inside of a company on how to get things done, it helps alleviate some of that stress, but it also allows you to understand when things are going wrong, maybe a little bit more in advance. So you can have those conversations and figure out what to do. And there's always things that go wrong. There's always stress, but it's just how you manage and document that. So I'm really big on work management products and how you use those products to kind of drive your business forward. And that's outside of market conditions and other things that could happen. But that in itself just helps alleviate stress, and it also helps you find and address problems, whether they be with the product that you're building, or whether they're with the people that are working on the product. In both ways, yeah.
I never thought of it that way. That the process that you have can help you carry you through kind of the stressful situations and help you maintain the balance. Could you give a couple of more examples of like what those processes could be?
Yeah, so I'll kind of start at the top level for me that I use. That I'm very big on having a very open communication style when it comes to the strategy of the company. So I like to document and communicate the goals of the company in a way that everybody can see them each day and know the progress towards those. So a very simple one is a sales goal for the quarter. So let's say your sales goal was $2 million. That's not something that I feel that you should hide from anybody in the company. You need to share exactly where you're at. You need to celebrate the success along the way as you get there. But as you talk with each of the teams in the company and they understand those 3 to 5 key goals that you have for the quarter, everything that they do in their job, the first thing they need to think about is what I'm doing in support of that key goal or metric that we have for the company. And if it's not, maybe that's not the right thing to be working on. And that goes all the way down as you set goals for each of the departments for the quarter, but down to each individual employee. I like to document or associate the goals for that employee for the quarter that relate back to their department and then relate back to the company. And then at the end of the quarter, you spend 10 or 15 minutes and you let the employee do a self-assessment of how they feel they did. The managers do an assessment of how their department did, and then I do an assessment of how the company did. Then we have conversations about that. We do that as a group. We meet and say we either met our goal or we didn't meet our goal. If we met or exceeded our goal, we celebrate that and talk about why. And at times you don't meet your goals, and you have to talk about what happened, what was the reason for that. And you're not trying to blame it on a person. You're trying to understand the specifics of maybe what do we need to do better that it helps us achieve that goal, or was that goal not achievable? And sometimes you learn that after the fact as well. We just weren't positioned well enough to maybe you wanted to hire 50 new people in the quarter in your organization, but you didn't have the support team to be able to do that on the HR side, or you didn't have the time for people to get the interviews done because of other, conflicting priorities that they had. So I'm big on that cadence of communicating that. And I'm also very big on every Monday morning, I like to have meetings with the executive team. I think we've talked about that in the past. I typically like to do that early before most employees make it into the office and talk about the prior week so that in advance if there's something that's not going well so that they can redirect those teams or those people on that each Monday morning. And that, again, helps alleviate a lot of stress so that you don't get to the end of the month or the quarter and you didn't have the chance to redirect, based on what was happening. And a lot of companies do that once a quarter, but I like to do it on a cadence of once a week.
Mm-hmm. Yes, a lot more frequently. Yes, I can see now how having certain things in place and it kind of creates you the opportunity to have frequent retrospectives, reviews, and that you're gonna have these conversations and that you're gonna talk things through with people, and that also helps eliminate stresses that may be piling up, the conversation that you should have had, right, but you didn't have them because you did not have a process to have them. But if you have this frequency, and I see how it just helps you talk things out and get get over things, talk through things a lot faster and right away, pretty much, especially with a weekly cadence. Obviously, that's, yeah.
And it's also, it helps create ownership and a sense of ownership by the team members. So people feel that they understand what they're responsible for in relation to the overall goal. So if it's the sales team, they know the things that they need to do. If it's the marketing team, they know what they need to do to support the sales team. If it's the product team, they understand, product dates and why they're so important to meet certain goals and planning. And you have all those people around the table each Monday. And it's just a very quick stand-up in a lot of cases. You spend each person 5 to 7 minutes, gives a quick update on their particular department and how things are going, any issues that they bring up the whole group and then talk about. But then they go back to their team and they have ownership of that piece, and their team members feel like they have ownership in that process as well.
I understand now what makes you happy in what you do in your professional life. I understand how you keep and maintain the balance. And now let's get to the next kind of phase of it, which is a burnout. How do you avoid burnout? What helps you kind of keep it away from you, and how do you not let it approach you?
Yeah, another really good question. I think I do a good job at times and maybe not as good of a job at other times. But, having a passion for something and working really hard is one thing, but doing that for an extended period of time can obviously have an effect on you, both your mental and your physical health as well. So you just have to understand that. I think in the tech industry, especially here in the States, it's just thought that if you're in a startup company, that people need to work, lots of hours. And a lot of times those hours are 60, 65 hours a week if you're a developer in a startup company in the U.S. And they do tend to burn out, a couple of years of that, even if they're paid really well, even if the company's done really well, they just reach a point where they just need a break, for a period of time. So you have to think about that, plan things in. We've done a lot of things in prior companies where we've tried to have events and take time off to celebrate things in a way that lets people kind of refresh a little bit. So you're not always just focused on the number. Sales is what drives every company. That's the bottom line when you get to it, right? But there's a lot of other things that you could celebrate, besides that. We had holiday parties that were a tradition at our company where they were never just for the employees. They were always for the employees' families. So they would bring their kids and their little kids. And we tried not to do events that didn't include families because we felt that was a good way that if the wife could see the environment that the husband was in, or the husband could see the environment the wife was in, that it helped them kind of connect with everybody at home, kind of alleviated a little bit of stress. We did a lot of, we give every employee 3 days and sometimes 5 days off every year to go volunteer outside of vacation and holiday schedule, for them to maybe go to their children's school or to their church or into the community and do things. Again, to just thinking about, people just need a mental break from being in the office sometimes. I know that, outside of the U.S., it's more common for people to work less hours in a day, and, more of a 40-hour work week in a lot of cases, and not a lot of overtime, because they're more cognizant of the burnout, and to have actually longer vacation times. In the U.S., a lot of companies frown on any vacation over a week at a time. And I know outside of the U.S., it's more common for people to get away for a couple of weeks at a time. And having had the chance to work with people, around the world, I can tell you that the people that take a little bit more time off are generally more productive longer term.
So you regularly take time off to kind of stay away from everything, and just have a vacation time when you don't have to think about work. Is that kind of one of the things that you do to avoid burnout?
I think it's hard. It's hard to do that a lot of times, but any time you can just do things that are enjoyable, and as you're doing them, you don't have work in the back of your mind as you're doing it. Like I like to go to Baja and do race cars and drive our race cars a lot. And, when you're in the seat of that car for 6 or 8 hours at a time, you can't think about anything else. And you just realize you get done. I feel energized, when I find activities like that. If I go on vacation with my wife or with my wife and my kids, and we just get caught up in sightseeing or whatever we're doing away from the work, it is great.
The next question that I have is kind of the question around your observations on others. What do you think a lot of people might be missing out that contributes toward their unfulfillment? So obviously you mentioned, lack of vacation time off, and kind of managing your work-life balance as one of the things that contributes toward the burnout. But I've seen cases where people kind of have the balance. They kind of figured it out, have the 40 hours per week. They don't overtime. They do their vacations, but still they are not fulfilled in their career in what they do. What do you think that group of people might be missing out?
Yeah, I think that's faith and family. I think you could say faith starts with family, or family starts with faith. They're so intertwined. That's there. And by family, for me, that's not just my wife and the kids, but that's my mom and my dad, my grandparents, my brothers. Just having the chance to interact with them and have those relationships be healthy, I think bleeds over. Having your own personal relationship and faith, regardless of what that might be, I think can alleviate a lot of stress, give you more of a sense of who you are and what your purpose is, maybe what your mission is as a person outside of work. Work tends to define all of us, and a lot of us, when somebody asks you, what do you do? Your first answer is you tell them about work.
Yes.
Who are you? Well, I work at this place.
Yeah.
I think we've shared in the past that I was part of a men's group, and that we, one of the things that we would do once a year is we would write our personal mission statement and kind of our own little tagline of who we are, what we're all about. And it makes you kind of think about things, right? And as you think about, as a leader in a company, how you treat the people around you, how you treat them has an impact on their lives, both from a financial and just from a personal and a satisfaction standpoint. But it also has an impact, on their kids, multiple generations that's there. And I think that as you grow older, you begin to learn that, and maybe your management style and how you interact with people changes, because that it has a much bigger impact than just you and the person you're talking to.
That's awesome. A personal mission statement. So you actually do that, and you've not only done it once, but you review it every year.
Yeah, each year, and most of the time, you put them on little cards and you put it in your wallet, and you can pull it out. Talk about it. It's something to remind you. It's not always something to share with other people, but it's something for you. Or if you're in a faith-based group with men or women, and that's a great place for you to talk about it as well.
Obviously, you've grown and wise and very successful, and you've learned a lot of the lessons, and you've figured out the balance of life. I would say. But I'm sure, and you've shared, it hasn't always been that way, right? And so what are some of the things that were getting on the way of your happiness and fulfillment as you were younger, much younger? So you were still doing work, and you were seeing progress. What were some of the things that, as you look back at a younger you see that, I shouldn't have been that way, or I should have thought differently, what are some of those things?
Yeah, I think that if we're kind of talking more about the tech industry, a lot of people that are in the tech industry to start companies are fairly driven people. You kind of have to have a passion about something, and you have to be able to commit to some long hours at times and be really dedicated to getting things done. And the people that aren't built that way have a harder time, right? It's harder to be successful in starting a company versus maybe working in a company and helping grow a company that's there. So from an early age, I was just built that way. It's important to kind of know who you are as a person and what your management, let your management style reflect who you are as a person and your personality, not try to be something different. And I think early in my career, I had a lot of passion, and I would look to other people and I'd see how they managed in different ways and think, oh, I have to do that. And what I personally learned over time was it was just better for me to manage with my personality. I don't need to be somebody else. I don't need to talk in a certain way. I just need to, share my passion and commitment with people in a way that's comfortable with me, and that makes them feel comfortable because they know I'm not trying to be something I'm not. And I'm not a real vocal person. I'm more of an introvert than an extrovert, although I can, I love to interact with people and have fun, but at the end of the day, I'm tired, right? And my wife, who is an extrovert, she does that all day. And at the end of the day, she's more amped up. She's more excited. So, I wish my younger self would have said a couple of things. Maybe take your time and enjoy the ride, right? Because it's going to happen. When you have a commitment and passion towards something long term, you tend to have good results. And I wish I would have found my final management style maybe earlier in my career. Would have had a better impact on the people around me and their families. Not that it was bad, but I feel much more comfortable in that position now.
Cool. So I mean, it really comes down to just being yourself, and you're so right. That is so true and so relevant to most of the younger people. Is as they figure out who they are and how they are, and how they maybe need to be like someone else. That truly is the struggle of trying to understand what you should be like. And it's so basic.
Right.
Be yourself. Don't try to be someone else, and life becomes a lot more enjoyable to you and to the others around you.
Yeah, and I think as you get older, you have to be cognizant that a lot of younger people are watching you and how you act in certain situations, and that has an impact on them. And if you can just do things in a more calm manner and treat people with more respect, even when times are really, really tough, that can leave a lasting impact with somebody, even somebody that was performing poorly that you had to have a conversation with. Maybe they responded a lot better to that conversation because of the way that you did it versus, a lot of yelling and saying things that maybe degraded them as a person or in their work, as opposed to focusing on how to address the issue in a way that created a positive experience for them.
Cool. Well, thank you so much. It's been really insightful. I really appreciate your time. I'm sure that the things you shared they're gonna resonate with a lot of people that will listen to this and help quite a few. So thank you for letting us all tap into your experience and learn from your lessons, Jon. That's been really enjoyable. Thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.